Just tell me the truth, Layla, so I can prepare myself. Prepare for what, Mom? I asked, my own voice sounding hollow. She took a deep breath, her eyes scanning me from head to toe, not like a mother looking at her child, but like a biologist studying a strange, unclassifiable specimen. The short, choppy black hair I'd had since I was 16. The way I stood, with my weight on one hip, my hands shoved in my pockets. The complete and utter absence of makeup on my face. Are you a lesbian? The word didn't land like a question. It landed like a verdict. A final, damning judgment handed down after years of evidence gathering. And in that moment, have you ever felt the ground just drop out from under you? When a single question from someone you love makes you feel like a complete stranger in your own home. What, Mom? No. What are you talking about? Don't lie to me. Her voice cracked. Mrs. Gable and Mrs. Peterson were just here. They were asking, wondering, why they've never seen you with a boy. Why a pretty girl, and you could be pretty, you know, spends all her time locked in her room with that machine. They were laughing, Layla, joking that maybe I'd be attending a wedding with 2 brides soon. Her face crumpled with a shame that wasn't even hers. It was borrowed, a hand-me-down humiliation from the neighborhood watch. So, you believe them? You believe a couple of bored old women over your own daughter? I shot back, the anger finally flaring up, hot and quick. What am I supposed to believe? She cried, her voice rising. Look at you. You're 25 years old, Layla. 25. Your sisters, Chloe and Sophia, were both married with babies on the way at your age. Their homes are filled with life. And you're still here. You dress like a boy. You cut your hair like a boy. You act like a boy. When was the last time you wore a dress? When was the last time you even had a real conversation with a man that didn't involve is less than #0? 3 hash is greater than shooting something on a screen. She gestured wildly towards my bedroom door, as if my computer was some kind of illicit lover hiding in the shadows. It's my job, Mom. I'm a graphic designer. The computer is how I work. I'm not talking about your job. I'm talking about your life. I see you. You come home from work, you eat dinner without saying a word, and then you vanish into that room to play those stupid, violent games with that boy from down the street. What's his name? It's a team, Mom. It's an online team, I muttered, the fight draining out of me. It was a pointless battle. It always was. She wasn't listening. She was on a roll now, the years of frustration pouring out. I'm your mother. I'm supposed to believe you, but you're not making it easy. I look at you, and I don't see a daughter. I don't know what I see. You're not a man, but you're not a woman either. So tell me, Layla, if you're not gay, then what are you? Why is it that at 25 years old, you've never had a boyfriend, never even been on a date? You've never even had your first kiss, have you? The question was a punch to the gut, a low, cheap blow, because she knew the answer, and she knew it would silence me. I just stood there, mute, as the weight of it all settled over me. She was right. All of it. The gaming, the lack of boyfriends, the first kiss that never happened. While my friends were navigating the messy, beautiful world of first loves and heartbreaks, I was mastering headshots in dimly lit internet cafes. While they were learning to contour and highlight, I was learning raid strategies. It wasn't a choice. Not really. It was just who I was, or who I'd become. My mother saw my silence as a confession. Her shoulders slumped. It's okay if you are, she whispered, her voice suddenly soft, which was somehow worse. This is the modern world. I can accept it. We can make it work. Just bring her home. Let me meet her. At least then I'll know. At least then, this house will have someone in it besides ghosts. Mom, for the last time, I'm not gay. I finally exploded. I like men. I swear. It's just, my luck hasn't come yet, okay? The right guy just hasn't shown up. Luck? She let out a short, bitter laugh. Luck doesn't find you locked in a dark room. You have to go out and find it. That night, after a dinner eaten in suffocating silence, I retreated to my sanctuary. The glow of the monitor, the familiar click of the mouse, the voices of my teammates in my headset. This was my world. A world where I was in control, where I was a leader, a hero. We were in the middle of a critical match, the tension high, victory within our grasp. When my door flew open, my mother stood there, her face a mask of grim determination. Before I could even react, she marched over, slammed the laptop shut, and ripped the power cord from the wall. Mom, what the hell? I was in the middle of a game. No more games, she said, her voice dangerously calm. She tucked the laptop under her arm like a captured flag. This ends now. What are you doing? Give that back. Does this help you find a husband, Layla? She asked, her eyes burning into mine. Does shooting people on a screen make you more of a woman? It's my release. It's what I do to relax. It's better than drinking or doing drugs, isn't it? It's an addiction. It's what's keeping you from living a real life. She started walking out of the room with my laptop. I scrambled after her. Mom, come on, that's my life in there. My work, my friends. Your friends? She scoffed. People you've never even met? She stopped at her bedroom door. You want this back? She held up the laptop. Then prove to me you have a life. You have until the end of the month, Layla. That's 2 weeks. I want you to bring a boyfriend home. A real, living, breathing man. You bring him here for me to meet, and you can have your precious machine back. I stared at her, dumbfounded. A boyfriend? In 2 weeks? Where am I supposed to find a boyfriend? At the supermarket. That's insane. Then, I guess you'll have to get creative, she said, her voice flat. If I don't see a man standing in our doorway by the 30th of this month, then not only am I getting rid of this computer, I'm packing your bags and you can find somewhere else to play your games. Do you understand me? And with that, she went into her room, and I heard the click of the lock. I stood there in the hallway, the silence of the house pressing in on me, the feeling of being trapped, of being so completely misunderstood, was choking me. 2 weeks. It was an impossible, ridiculous ultimatum. But what could I do? The next night, the craving was unbearable. The itch in my fingers, the phantom weight of the headset on my ears. The silence was driving me insane. I couldn't work. I couldn't think. I had to play. After washing the dishes, I came up with a plan. Mom, I called through her door. I'm heading over to Olivia's place. We're just gonna hang out. A muffled, okay, be home by 11, was all I got. Perfect. She didn't suspect a thing. The internet cafe was only a 5-minute walk from my house. The night was cool. A gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the old oak trees that lined our street. As I approached the small pedestrian bridge that crossed over the creek, the wind picked up. It felt nice, cleansing. I stopped halfway across, leaning against the railing, just breathing it all in. The moonlight shimmered on the dark, swirling water below. For the first time in days, my mind felt quiet. I wasn't thinking about my mom, or the ultimatum, or the crushing weight of expectation. I was just there. Suddenly, a force slammed into me from the side. Hey, don't do it, man. A frantic voice yelled in my ear, an arm wrapped around my waist like a steel band, yanking me backwards, away from the railing. The shock was so total, so absolute, that my phone, which had been clutched loosely in my hand, flew from my grasp. I watched in surreal slow motion as it tumbled through the air, hit the water with a soft plink, and vanished into the darkness. The man, who was surprisingly strong, dragged me a few feet onto the solid pavement, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Whatever's going on, it's not worth it," he panted, still holding on to me. "Your parents, they'd be devastated. You can't just throw your life away like this." I stood there, stunned into silence for a second. The world spun. He'd called me. Man. The wind blew my short hair across my face. My phone was gone, and this stranger was holding me in a bizarre, life-saving embrace that I absolutely did not need. The rage came a moment later, white-hot and volcanic. I shoved him with all my might. "What is wrong with you?" I shrieked, my voice high and furious. "Get off me. My phone. My phone is in the river because of you." He stumbled back, his eyes wide with confusion. He was tall, well-dressed, in a dark suit that looked expensive, and his face was a handsome, perplexed mess. "Wait." Your voice. "You're a girl?" "Of course I'm a girl, you idiot." I shoved him again, this time connecting with his chest. "Are you blind and stupid?" I was getting some fresh air. Not jumping. "You lunatic." He stared at me, then at the railing, then back at me. A slow blush crept up his neck. Oh, my God. I am so sorry. I saw you looking down, and the way you were standing. You thought wrong." I was practically screaming now, the injustice of it all bubbling over. "Now my phone is gone. Do you have any idea?" I was about to launch into a full tirade about my terrible, awful, no good week when I finally noticed his face. Really noticed it. His eyes were red-rimmed, his expression haunted. This wasn't just a crazy person. This was a man drowning in his own sorrow. But right now, I was too angry to care. "You owe me a new phone," I seethed, pointing a trembling finger at him. "Right now." He blinked, taken aback by my ferocity. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled dark hair, messing it up. Okay, you're right. I'll buy you a new one." Of course. His voice was low, laced with an exhaustion that went deeper than our brief, chaotic encounter. "There's a Verizon just down the block. We can go now." "Fine." I clipped out, crossing my arms over my chest. The adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving a hollow, shaky feeling in its place. "Let's go." He nodded, looking relieved that I hadn't started swinging at him again. We began to walk, the silence between us thick and awkward. He kept glancing at me, as if trying to figure out a puzzle. "I really am sorry," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't thinking straight. Clearly, I muttered. "My name's Leo," he offered, shoving his hands into the pockets of his suit pants. "What's yours?" Layla, he repeated, testing the name on his tongue. "Look, Layla, what were you doing out here alone so late? It's not exactly the safest place." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You think a mugger would be disappointed if they tried something with me?" I shot back, echoing the exact thought I'd had just moments before this whole mess. "Trust me, you're the worst thing that's happened to me all night. And that's saying something. I was supposed to be in the middle of a raid right now, but my mom confiscated my laptop. This was my grand escape." "You lost me at raid," he said, a faint, sad smile touching his lips. It was the first hint of warmth I'd seen from him. "Doesn't matter. Point is, you ruined my night." "I know, and I'm sorry," he said again, his sincerity starting to chip away at my anger. "It's just, You looked how I feel, and I guess I just projected. We reached the bright, sterile light of the phone store. As we walked in, Leo took charge. She needs a new phone, he told the young man at the counter. What kind were you looking for? The employee asked, looking at me. The iPhone 16, the blue one. That's what I had, I said, pointing at the display. Leo shook his head. They have the 17 Pro out now, right? Let's get her that one. I stared at him. No, that thing is like $1,600. It's way too much. The 16 is fine. Get her the 17 Pro, Leo said to the employee, pulling a sleek black credit card from his wallet. The best one you have. Sir, I'm not letting you spend that much money, I argued, feeling a strange need to defend his wallet. I'm the one who sent your phone for a swim. I'm the one paying, he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Don't worry about it. And just like that, I walked out with a brand new, top-of-the-line phone that I couldn't possibly afford. As he handed me the bag, he paused. Hey, do you know any place good to eat around here? I'm starving. His voice was quiet again, the sadness creeping back in. There's a diner just around the corner, I said, already planning my route home. You can't miss it. I should get going. Wait, he said, his hand lightly touching my arm. The contact sent a weird little jolt through me. Would you eat with me? I'll pay, obviously. I don't really want to be alone right now. I looked at him. The handsome face, the expensive suit, the profound sadness in his eyes. And if I was being honest with myself, my stomach was rumbling. Okay, I sighed. But you're paying for everything. Deal, he said, that small, sad smile returning. The diner was warm and smelled of coffee and grilled onions. We slid into a booth. The red vinyl cracked and worn. Leo didn't even look at the menu. He ordered a mountain of food, burgers, fries, onion rings, and then he looked at the waitress. And can we get 2 shots of your best whiskey? I raised an eyebrow. My treat, he said, looking at me. My mood is not great tonight. I could really use a drink. Will you join me? Against my better judgment, against every instinct that told me this was a bad idea, I heard myself say, sure, why not? The waitress brought the shots. Leo picked his up, his hand trembling slightly. He looked at me, his eyes dark and stormy. To terrible nights, he said, and tossed it back in one go. I watched him, a knot tightening in my stomach. This was more than just a bad mood. This was grief. As he drank more, the story began to spill out of him, fragmented and painful. Tomorrow, he started, staring into his second glass of whiskey. The woman I love is getting married. Oh, I said softly. Wow, that's rough. Rough doesn't even begin to cover it. He slurred slightly, the alcohol hitting him fast. She's marrying my best friend. I winced. Ouch. A double whammy. He nodded, a bitter twist to his lips. The 3 of us. We grew up together. We were inseparable. Me, her, Amelia, and him, Michael. I've loved her for 10 years, Layla. 10 years. I never told her. I was always waiting for the right moment. And while I was waiting, Michael stepped in, and she chose him. So, she doesn't know how you feel. She knows, but it doesn't matter. She loves him, and I have to stand there tomorrow and watch them promise forever to each other. I have to smile and clap and pretend I'm happy for them, but all I feel is this huge, gaping hole right here. He thumped his chest with the heel of his hand. I didn't know what to say. What do you say to that? There are other fish in the sea. Time heals all wounds. It all sounded so cheap, so hollow. So instead, I just listened. I drank with him. I listened as he talked about their childhood, about the way her hair caught the light, about the 10 years he'd wasted being a coward. His pain was raw, palpable. He wasn't just sad, he was broken. I don't think I can ever trust a woman again, he mumbled, his head lolling to the side. You're all the same. You break things. Hey, don't lump us all together, I said, my own words starting to sound a little fuzzy. The whiskey was warm in my belly. There are good ones out there. You just haven't met the right one. Don't believe it, he slurred. There's no one good left. The more he drank, the sadder he became. And the more he drank, the more I drank. It was a terrible idea. I'm not a big drinker, but sitting there, listening to his heartbreak, it felt like the only thing to do, to share the poison. After what felt like an eternity, he finally fumbled for his wallet and paid the bill. We stumbled out into the cool night air, both of us unsteady on our feet. Okay, I gotta go home, I said, trying to get my bearings. My house is that way. Home, he repeated, spinning in a slow circle. Which way is my home? I couldn't help it, I laughed. You're so drunk you don't even know which way is up. He stopped spinning and pointed a wobbly finger at me. You're laughing at me. See? I knew it. You're just like all the others. Cruel. I am not cruel, I protested, indignant. I'm one of the good ones, remember? I'm nice. The nicest. He squinted at me, shaking his head. I don't believe you. Besides, you look more like a dude anyway. What kind of girl has hair like that? The drunken haze evaporated, replaced by a flash of pure rage. What did you just say? He was grinning now, a sloppy, infuriating grin. I said you look like a boy. Your clothes, your hair, the way you talk. You sure you're not a lesbian? That word again, twice in one night. It was the final straw. You son of a bitch, I yelled, and I launched myself at him. Take that back. He just laughed and started to run, stumbling down the empty sidewalk. I chased after him, fueled by whiskey and righteous fury. Get back here, you jerk. You're dead when I get my hands on you. He was surprisingly fast for someone so drunk. He suddenly stopped dead in his tracks, and I, unable to stop my own momentum, crashed right into him. We went down in a tangled heap of limbs. I landed on top of him, the impact knocking the wind out of me. For a moment, everything was still, and then I realized. My lips had brushed against his forehead. I kissed his forehead. Mortified, I scrambled to get up, but my legs were tangled with his. I lost my balance and fell again, this time my face landing squarely on his. My mouth pressed against his. Time stopped. His eyes, wide and surprised, stared into mine. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I tried to pull away, my mind screaming, "What is happening? I didn't mean to." I stammered, my face burning. But before I could finish the sentence, his hands came up, tangled in my hair, and he pulled my head back down. He kissed me, really kissed me. It wasn't gentle or romantic. It was desperate and messy and tasted of whiskey and sorrow and something else I couldn't name. It was my first kiss on a sidewalk with a drunk, heartbroken stranger who thought I was a boy. The shock of it, the sheer wrongness and rightness of it all at once, short-circuited my brain. He pulled away, his breath hot on my cheek. He whispered in my ear, his voice a low growl. "Come with me." "Where?" I breathed, my senses reeling. "To a hotel. Dare you?" And in that moment, with my mother's ultimatum ringing in my ears, with the sting of his insults still fresh, with the ghost of my first kiss still on my lips, some broken, reckless part of me, a part I didn't even know existed, made a decision. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. He saw the answer in my eyes. He got to his feet, pulled me up with him, and without letting go of my hand, he started walking. Two drunken, broken people, one leading the other, into the night, towards a cheap motel sign that glowed like a beacon in the darkness. I don't know why I went. Maybe it was the alcohol. Maybe it was a twisted desire to prove my mother and him and the whole world wrong. Or maybe, just maybe, I was so tired of being the sensible, lonely girl in her room that for one night, I just wanted to be someone else entirely. Someone who made terrible, impulsive, unforgettable mistakes. The motel room smelled of stale cigarette smoke and bleach. The moment the door clicked shut behind us, the world outside ceased to exist. There was only the dim light from a single bedside lamp, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Leo turned to me, his eyes dark and unreadable in the low light. He kissed me again, and this time, there was no hesitation. It was a raw, hungry kiss, a desperate attempt to erase the pain of the day, of the last 10 years. And I, in my own haze of confusion and alcohol-fueled rebellion, kissed him back with a ferocity that surprised us both. We were two strangers trying to lose ourselves in each other, two drowning people clinging to the same piece of wreckage. His hands fumbled with the buttons on my shirt as he backed me towards the bed. "Are you sure?" he murmured against my lips, his voice thick. "I don't know," I whispered back, and it was the most honest thing I'd said all night. I wasn't sure of anything, but in that moment, the rightness or wrongness of it didn't matter. All that mattered was the feeling of being wanted, of being touched, of finally stepping out of the shadows of my own quiet life, even if it was into a different kind of darkness. We fell onto the cheap, scratchy bedspread, a tangle of limbs, and whispered uncertainties. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. Not really. It was a collision. A beautiful, tragic, desperate collision. Sunlight, harsh and unforgiving, streamed through a gap in the cheap curtains, stabbing at my eyelids. I groaned, my head pounding with a rhythm that felt like a construction crew was working inside my skull. For a blissful, disoriented second, I didn't know where I was. Then, memory came flooding back in a tidal wave of shame and regret. The motel, the whiskey, Leo. I slowly, cautiously opened my eyes. I was naked, tangled in thin, starchy sheets, and I was wrapped around a man. My legs were hooked over his, my arms slung across his bare chest. I could feel the steady, rhythmic beat of his heart under my palm. I clamped my own hand over my mouth to stifle the scream that was clawing its way up my throat. Oh my God, what did I do? I carefully untangled myself from him, my movements slow and deliberate, like a bomb disposal expert. He didn't stir. He was sleeping soundly, his handsome face peaceful in the morning light, too peaceful, annoyingly beautiful, even in sleep. Well, at least he was good-looking, I thought with a flicker of dark humor. Imagine going through all this for someone ugly. The thought was so absurd it was almost hysterical. This had to be my rock bottom. Layla, the girl who had never been kissed, had somehow managed to leapfrog over dating, romance, and any semblance of a normal relationship and dive headfirst into a one-night stand with a heartbroken stranger. My new phone was on the nightstand. My heart lurched. My mother, she must be frantic. I'd told her I'd be home by 11. What time was it now? My eyes found the clock on the phone's screen. 9 a.m. Crap. I hadn't gotten a new SIM card yet. The phone was a blank slate. Panicked, I quickly entered my mother's number, my fingers clumsy and shaking. It rang twice before she picked up, her voice sharp with anxiety. "Hello? Who is this?" "Mom? It's me. It's Layla. Layla." The relief in her voice was immediately followed by a wave of anger. "Where in God's name are you? I've been calling you all night. I was about to report you missing to the police." I had to think fast. The truth was not an option. "Mom, I'm so sorry. You won't believe it. I ran into my old teacher, Mrs. Harrison, from high school. You remember her. We got to talking, and I went back to her place, and we just lost track of time. By the time I looked at the clock, it was after midnight, and she insisted I just stay the night on her couch. It's all fine." It was the lamest, most transparent lie I'd ever told. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Mrs. Harrison," my mother said, her voice dangerously quiet. "The one you told me moved to Florida 2 years ago. Double crap. Oh, right. She's just back visiting. For a few days. She just left again, actually. Super quick trip, Layla." "Are you lying to me?" "No, of course not. Look, I gotta go. I'm on my way home now. I'll explain everything when I get there. Bye." I hung up before she could interrogate me further. I looked back at Leo, still sleeping, oblivious to the web of lies I was now weaving. I had to get out of there. As quietly as I could, I slipped out of bed, gathered my clothes from the floor, and dressed in the cramped, musty bathroom. Each movement felt like an accusation. I splashed cold water on my face, staring at the stranger in the mirror. Her eyes were puffy, her hair was a mess, and there was a dark, new knowledge hiding behind her gaze. I risked one last look at him before I left. He really was beautiful, the kind of man my sisters would have brought home to a chorus of oohs and ahs, the kind of man my mother dreamed of for me. The irony was so thick I could taste it. I crept out of the room, closing the door with a soft click, and practically ran back to my life, to the impending storm that I knew was waiting for me at home. The entire walk was a brutal, relentless self-flogging. "You're an idiot, Layla. A complete and utter fool. All that for what? A night of forgetting. Well, you won't forget this. This is a lesson. No more drinking. No more strangers. This is a mistake you will carry with you for the rest of your life." When I walked through my front door, my mother was waiting for me, sitting in her armchair like a queen on her throne, ready to pass sentence. Her arms were crossed, her face was stone. "Where were you?" she asked, her voice devoid of emotion. I repeated my flimsy lie about Mrs. Harrison, embellishing it with details I hoped would make it sound more plausible. She just stared at me, her eyes boring into mine, and I knew she didn't believe a word of it. "You're lying," she said simply. "I don't know where you were or who you were with, but you're reeking of cheap perfume and regret." I flinched. She was half right. "I'm tired, Mom. I'm going to my room." I tried to sidle past her, to escape to the only safe place I had left. "Sunday is a family day," she said, her voice stopping me in my tracks. "But I suppose you forgot that, too." I fled to my room and slammed the door, my heart pounding. The safety I was looking for wasn't there. The room felt alien, the silence accusing. I crawled into my bed, pulled the covers over my head, and surrendered to the overwhelming shame and confusion. What had I done? And more importantly, who had I become? Leo woke up to the blare of his phone. It was nearly 2 p.m. The sunlight was a harsh, angry glare in the cheap motel room. He squinted at the screen. 16 missed calls, all from Michael, the groom. "Oh shit," he mumbled, his head throbbing. He sat bolt upright. The wedding, Amelia's wedding. He had missed it. He was supposed to be the best man. He was supposed to be there. He looked around the empty room. The girl, Layla. was gone. Of course she was. A faint, unfamiliar scent lingered on the pillow next to him. He ran a hand over his face, the events of the previous night coming back to him in disjointed, hazy flashes. The bridge, the diner, the whiskey, the kiss. Her. He got dressed, his movements stiff and clumsy, and called his driver. "Where are you, sir? I've been trying to reach you all morning. I'm at the Starlight Motel on Route 9. Just come get me." The Starlight Motel? The driver's voice was filled with a mixture of surprise and amusement. "Yes, sir. On my way." When the sleek black car pulled up, the driver, a man in his 50s, named David, who had worked for Leo's family for years, couldn't hide his grin. "Rough night, Leo?" he asked, his eyes twinkling in the rearview mirror as Leo slumped into the back seat. "You have no idea," Leo groaned, rubbing his temples. "Let me guess," David continued, pulling smoothly out onto the road. "A lady was involved?" Leo managed a small, tired smile. "Yeah, a lady was involved." "Well, it's about time," David said. "I was starting to worry about you." The smile vanished from Leo's face. "I missed the wedding, David. Amelia's wedding. She must be so angry with me. What am I going to do?" "Amelia will understand," David said gently. "You've been friends your whole life. You tell her the truth, that you were heartbroken and made a mistake. She'll forgive you." "I hope so," Leo sighed, leaning his head against the cool glass of the window. As the car sped towards his empty, silent mansion, his thoughts drifted back to the girl from the night before. Layla, with her short, messy hair, her fierce, angry eyes, and the surprising vulnerability he'd glimpsed beneath the tough exterior. He found himself smiling, a genuine, unforced smile. For the first time in a long time, he had thought about something other than Amelia. A week passed. Life settled back into a tense, fragile routine. My mother and I were locked in a Cold War, communicating only in terse, necessary phrases. The end of the month was looming, a guillotine hanging over my head. I had 3 days left to produce a boyfriend out of thin air, or I was out on the street. I was beginning to resign myself to my fate, mentally calculating how many months of rent my savings would cover, when my new phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. "Hello, is this Layla?" a familiar voice asked. A voice that sent an immediate, mortifying blush creeping up my neck. It was Leo. Yeah, this is she," I stammered, my heart doing a frantic tap dance against my ribs. How did you get my number?" "I got it from your phone before you woke up," he said smoothly. "I figured I might need it." I was too stunned to be angry. "Oh, right. Listen," he said, his voice warm and strangely cheerful. "Are you free tonight? I'd like to take you for a coffee. As a proper thank you and a proper apology." My mind was racing. An idea, a crazy, desperate, terrible idea, began to form. It was insane. It was manipulative. It was perfect. "Coffee sounds good," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What time?" 7 o'clock, he suggested. "There's a place called the Daily Grind on Main Street." "Perfect," I said, the plan solidifying in my mind. "I'll see you then." That evening, as I was getting ready to leave, my mother appeared in the doorway of my room. Her eyes, narrowed with suspicion, took in my clean jeans and the black hoodie I was pulling over my head. "And where are you going at this hour?" she asked, her voice frosted with disapproval. I took a deep breath, summoning a casual air I was far from feeling. "Out," I said, trying to sound breezy. "Going to see if I can't rustle up a boyfriend to present to Her Majesty." Her expression flickered. For the first time in a week, I saw a glimmer of something other than anger in her eyes. "Hope, maybe. You." You found someone? She asked, her voice cautious. I've got a lead, I said, grabbing my keys. Don't wait up. This might take a while. I left her standing there, a confused but intrigued look on her face. For the first time, I felt like I had a sliver of power in this ridiculous situation. Leo was already there when I arrived, sitting at a small table by the window. He stood up when he saw me, and a smile lit up his face. It was a real smile this time, not the sad, ghost-like thing I'd seen at the diner. It completely transformed him, making him look younger, less burdened. In the warm, coffee-scented air of the cafe, he looked devastatingly handsome. My stomach did a little flip-flop. Hey, he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. You came. You promised coffee, I replied, sliding into the chair opposite him. I'm a woman of simple needs. What can I get you? He asked, gesturing to the menu board. Just an orange juice is fine. He ordered for us, and we settled into a surprisingly easy conversation. He was charming, funny, and self-deprecating about his behavior the night we met. He talked about his work. He ran some kind of investment firm his father had started, and he listened, really listened. When I talked about my graphic design projects, he was completely different from the broken man I'd met on the bridge. It was like night and day, and I found myself liking him, genuinely liking this new version of him, which made what I was about to do feel even worse. As we were getting ready to leave, I knew it was now or never. I took a deep, steadying breath. Leo? I began, my heart starting to pound again. Yeah? Can I ask you for a huge, insane, completely inappropriate favor? He leaned back in his chair, a curious smile playing on his lips. I'm intrigued. Go on. I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend. The words tumbled out in a rush. He just stared at me for a long moment, and then he burst out laughing. A loud, genuine laugh that made the barista look over at us. You're kidding, right? He finally managed to say, wiping a tear from the corner of his eye. I wish I was, I said, my face burning with embarrassment. I explained the whole sordid story, my mother's ultimatum, the confiscated laptop, the deadline that was now only 2 days away. She's going to kick me out, Leo. I have nowhere else to go. I just need you to come over, have dinner, pretend you're madly in love with me for a couple of hours, and then you can disappear forever. I'll be eternally grateful. He looked at me, the laughter fading from his eyes, replaced by something I couldn't quite decipher. Amusement? Pity? Okay, he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. I'll do it. I blinked. Really? Just like that? Just like that, he confirmed. But what's in it for me? I'll buy you dinner? I offered lamely. He shook his head, his eyes twinkling with mischief. I'm thinking of a better form of payment, but we can work that out later. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. So, when does this grand performance take place? Tomorrow night? I squeaked. 7 o'clock, at my house. It's a date, he said, and the way he said it sent another one of those weird little jolts through me. The moment I told my mother I was bringing my boyfriend home for dinner, the entire atmosphere in the house changed. The ice age thawed. Suddenly, she was humming as she cooked. She immediately went to her room, retrieved my laptop, and placed it on my bed as a triumphant peace offering. I was no longer the family disgrace. I was the prodigal daughter, returned to the fold. She insisted on doing all the chores, shooing me out of the kitchen and telling me to go make myself pretty. The next morning, she went to the market and came back with bags overflowing with the best ingredients, boasting to the neighbors, the very same Mrs. Gable and Mrs. Peterson, that her Layla was finally bringing a young man home. A very successful young man, she added, for dramatic effect. The news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. I felt like a fraud, a character in a play that was spiraling out of my control. In his sprawling, minimalist mansion, Leo stood in front of his walk-in closet, a frown creasing his brow. He pulled out a sleek Armani suit, held it up, then put it back. He tried a more casual but equally expensive-looking blazer and slacks combination. "What am I doing?" he muttered to himself, a strange, nervous energy buzzing under his skin. "It's just pretend. Why do I feel like this is a real first date?" "Layla, it's almost 6 o'clock. Are you still playing that game?" My mother's voice shrieked from downstairs. I was, in fact, in the middle of a very intense match, making up for lost time. "I'll be ready in 5 minutes, Mom," I yelled back, not taking my eyes off the screen. A moment later, she was standing in my doorway, her face thunderous. "Don't you think you should put on some makeup? A little lipstick? You look washed out." "Mom, he knows what I look like. It's fine." "It is not fine." She stormed into the room. "And what are you planning on wearing?" "Not that." She pointed a horrified finger at my favorite ripped jeans and faded t-shirt. Before I could protest, she was rummaging through my closet, pulling out clothes and tossing them onto my bed with sighs of disgust. "Honestly, Layla, don't you own anything feminine? No dresses, not even a skirt?" She held up a pair of baggy cargo pants as if they were a contaminated specimen. "You can't wear this. They're comfortable," I protested. "I don't care if they're comfortable. You look like a hooligan. You know what? Stay here." She marched out of the room. "I'll lend you one of my new dresses. I have a red one that would." "No, absolutely not. I'm not wearing your dress, Mom." We were in the middle of a frantic tug of war over a pair of black jeans when the doorbell rang. My eyes widened in panic. "He's here." My mother froze. She peered out my bedroom window. "Oh my. He looks very distinguished." She looked from the handsome man at our door to me, in my state of disarray. "We're out of time." "Fine. Wear what you want. But for God's sake, put on some mascara." She bustled downstairs to open the door, leaving me to scramble into the least offensive outfit I could find. I could hear her voice drifting up the stairs, dripping with honey. "You must be Leo. Come in, come in. I'm Anna, Layla's mother." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Anna," Leo's smooth voice replied. "These are for you." He'd brought flowers. Of course he had. I took a deep breath and went downstairs. He was standing in the living room, looking ridiculously out of place and impossibly handsome. He was holding a large fruit basket. He'd brought a fruit basket. "Who does that?" "Layla, honey, you're down," my mother chirped. "Leo was just asking where you were." "Hey," I said, trying for a casual tone. "You're early. I couldn't wait to see you," he said, his eyes locking with mine. He gave me a look so full of adoration that for a second, I almost believed it myself. "I missed you." He was good. He was very good. My mother practically swooned. "Oh, you two are so sweet." She shot me a look that said, "If you say one sarcastic thing, I will end you." Dinner was a surreal experience. Leo laid the charm on so thick you could have spread it on toast. He complimented my mother's cooking, asked my father about his golf game, and told funny, engaging stories about his work. He played the part of the perfect boyfriend so flawlessly that my parents were completely captivated. He talked about me as if I were the most fascinating, wonderful woman he had ever met. He even managed to make my gaming hobby sound like a cool, cutting-edge passion. I mostly just sat there, eating and trying not to choke on my food every time he dropped another outrageously romantic lie. By the end of the night, my mother wasn't just happy, She was ecstatic. She was already planning the wedding in her head. I could see it in her eyes. It was after 10 when I finally started yawning, hoping to signal that the show was over. "Leo, it's getting late. Don't you have to get home?" I said, a little more bluntly than I intended. My mother kicked me under the table. Hard. "Layla, what a thing to say. It's still early." Leo looked at his watch. "She's right, Anna. I should get going. Thank you so much for a wonderful dinner. It was the best meal I've had in a long time. You come back any time, son." My father boomed, clapping him on the shoulder. As he was heading for the door, my mother gave me a sharp nudge. "Aren't you going to walk him out, Layla?" I sighed. "Fine. I'll walk you out." We stepped out into the cool night air. The moment the door closed behind us, the spell was broken. "Okay, show's over," I said, crossing my arms. "You can drop the act now." He turned to me, a strange, soft expression on his face. "I don't know," he said quietly. "It felt kind of real, didn't it?" I scoffed, trying to ignore the way my heart skipped a beat. "What? Are you crazy? You're a great actor, I'll give you that. You almost had me convinced. Maybe I wasn't acting," he said, taking a step closer. "Layla, I have this feeling, this crazy feeling that you and we're going to end up together." "Okay, now you're definitely crazy," I said, taking a step back. "Go home, Leo." He feigned a wounded look. "I just saved you from being homeless, and I don't even get a thank you? Thank you for helping me get a delicious home-cooked meal tonight," I retorted. "We're even. Now go." "Fine," he said, turning to leave. "I'm going. I'm officially sulking." He walked to a ridiculously expensive-looking sports car parked down the street. Of course, he drove a sports car and got in. As I turned to go back inside, I had a sudden thought. This whole elaborate charade, this crazy, tangled mess, it was just the beginning, wasn't it? As Leo drove away, a sleek, dark sedan pulled up to the curb just in front of his mansion. The driver's side door opened, and Michael, his best friend, the groom, got out. He looked exhausted, his shoulders slumped, the joy of a newlywed nowhere in sight. Leo got out of his car, his own manufactured cheer from my family dinner evaporating instantly. "Michael, what are you doing here? Where's Amelia? Shouldn't you two be?" "You know," Michael ran a hand through his already disheveled hair, a gesture of pure frustration. "She's gone, Leo." "Gone? What do you mean, gone? Gone where?" "She packed a bag and went back to her mother's," Michael said, his voice flat and lifeless. "This afternoon. Said she needed space." Leo stared at his friend, shocked. "You're on your honeymoon, and you've already had a fight. What happened?" "Do you have any whiskey?" Michael asked, ignoring the question. "The good stuff?" "Yeah, of course. Come on in." Inside, surrounded by the cold, impersonal luxury of Leo's living room, Michael finally broke. With a glass of expensive scotch in his hand, he began to unravel. "It's not just a fight, Leo. It's her. She's not happy. We were in Seoul, supposed to be having the time of our lives, and all she did was complain. She said it was boring. She kept trying to call you, and when she couldn't get through, she got so frustrated, she threw her phone against the wall and smashed it." Leo felt a cold dread seeping into his bones. "She called me, repeatedly," Michael said, his voice thick with a pain that was hard to watch. "And that's not the worst of it. Last night, we were in bed together, and she said your name." The glass in Leo's hand felt slick with sweat. "What?" "3 times, Leo," Michael continued, his eyes welling up with tears he refused to let fall. "We were making love, and she called out your name. I think I think I made a mistake, man. I think the person she's really in love with is you. Leo's head was spinning. He tried to rationalize it, to find some other explanation. No, Michael, you're overthinking it. The three of us, we've been close forever. It was probably just a slip of the tongue, a habit. She loves you. She married you. Does she? Michael shot back, his voice cracking. Because it feels like I'm a placeholder. It feels like she settled. Why else would she choose me, then spend her honeymoon trying to get in touch with you? Why else would she scream your name in her sleep? The questions hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. Leo felt a surge of guilt so powerful it almost made him sick. This was his fault. His cowardice, his 10 years of silence, had created this mess. I'm going to end it, Michael whispered, staring into his drink as if the future were written in the swirling amber liquid. I'm going to give her a divorce. Let her be free. Let her go to you. Maybe she'll be happy with you. Don't be an idiot, Leo snapped, the words harsher than he intended. You don't throw away a marriage after 10 days. You talk to her. You work through it. This is just new marriage jitters. That's all. This is more than jitters, Michael said, his voice filled with a devastating finality. This is a 10-year-long mistake finally coming to light. They drank in silence for a long time after that. The unspoken history of their friendship, their love for the same woman, filling the vast, empty room. Leo eventually helped his drunken, heartbroken friend to a guest room, then retreated to the living room couch, the words replaying in his mind. She called out your name. He was torn between a treacherous spark of hope and the crushing weight of his loyalty to his friend. He thought about calling Amelia, demanding an explanation, but he knew it would only pour gasoline on the fire. He lay there all night, staring at the ceiling. Sleep an impossible prospect. The next morning, Michael woke with the sun, his head pounding. He found Leo asleep on the couch, looking vulnerable and strangely young. A wave of complicated emotion washed over Michael. Anger, betrayal, but also a deep, abiding, brotherly love. It wasn't Leo's fault. Not really. He was just as much a victim of Amelia's indecision as he was. Leo, he said softly, shaking his friend's shoulder. Wake up. Leo's eyes fluttered open. You're up. Yeah, I'm heading home, Michael said. Thanks for letting me crash. Anytime, Leo replied, sitting up. Listen, Michael, about last night. Just think about what you're doing, okay? Don't make any rash decisions. Michael nodded, a sad smile on his face. It's all up to her. Man, it always has been. I've been waiting for her to fully choose me for years. I guess I can wait a little longer. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Be her friend, Leo. That's all I ask. Just be there for her. I will, Leo promised. But just as Michael's car disappeared down the long driveway, another one pulled up, a white convertible. Amelia's car. Leo's heart sank. This was not going to be an easy day. She got out of the car, looking stunning and distraught all at once. She didn't wait for an invitation, just walked straight into the house and into his arms, wrapping herself around him from behind. Leo, she breathed into his back. I've missed you so much. He stiffened, gently trying to disentangle himself. Amelia, what are you doing here? Michael was just here. You should be with him. I don't want to be with him, she said, her voice muffled against his shirt. These past few weeks have been a nightmare. All I could think about was you. He finally managed to turn around, putting a careful distance between them. You're married now, Amelia. This isn't right. You're going to destroy my friendship with Michael. But I love you, she said, her eyes filling with tears. I realize that now. I made a mistake. I chose the wrong person. It's always been you." The words he had longed to hear for a decade now sounded like a curse. "It's too late," he said, his voice firm. "You made your choice. You have to live with it. But you still love me, don't you?" She pressed, her voice pleading. "I know you do. We can fix this. I'll divorce Michael, and we can finally be together. Please, Leo, just hold me. I need you to hold me." She was crying openly now, and every instinct in him screamed to comfort her, to pull her into his arms as he had done 1,000 times before. But something had shifted. He saw her not as the ethereal girl he had placed on a pedestal, but as a person, a flawed, confused person who was causing immense pain to the people who loved her most. "I can't," he said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. I can't." "Why not?" she sobbed. "Why are you pushing me away?" He needed an escape, an excuse, something so final, so definitive, that she would have no choice but to back away. And in that moment of desperation, the image of another girl flashed in his mind, a girl with short, messy hair and fierce, angry eyes. "Because I'm with someone else," he blurted out. Amelia froze, the tears stopping on her cheeks. "What?" "I've met someone," he continued, the lie growing bigger and more detailed with every word. "That's why I wasn't at your wedding. I was with her. She had a stomach flu, and I had to take care of her." The lie was flimsy, ridiculous, but it was all he had. "I don't believe you," she said, her voice trembling. "You're lying. You've loved me for years. You can't just move on that fast." "People change, Amelia," he said, his voice hardening. "I've changed. The girl I'm with, she's different. She's honest. She's straightforward. And I'm going to be with her. I'm going to be responsible for what happened between us." "Responsible? What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath. "We spent the night together. The night before your wedding." Amelia stared at him, her face a mask of disbelief and horror. You slept with someone?" "Yes," he said, the lie now a living, breathing thing. "And I'm going to do right by her. So you need to go home. Go back to your husband and leave me alone." Just as the words left his mouth, he heard a sound from the doorway. He turned. Michael was standing there, his face pale, a forgotten phone in his hand. He must have come back for it. He had heard everything, or rather, he had heard the worst possible version of everything. He saw the scene. Amelia, tear-streaked, in the middle of Leo's living room. Leo, looking guilty and defensive. And the words slept with someone echoing in the silent, cavernous space. Before Leo could say a word, before he could explain the desperate protective lie he had just told, Michael's face contorted with a rage born of ultimate betrayal. He strode across the room and punched Leo squarely in the jaw. Leo staggered back, the taste of blood filling his mouth. "You bastard," Michael snarled, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "Behind my back. All this time, you were lying to me." Amelia, seeing her chance, rushed to Leo's side, positioning herself as the wronged party's defender. "Michael, don't. How could you?" she shrieked, slapping Michael across the face. "It's not his fault. I love him." It was a masterclass in manipulation, a perfectly executed triangulation. Michael looked from her to Leo, his eyes filled with a pain so profound it was terrifying. You planned this, didn't you? Both of you." "Michael, listen to me," Leo started, wiping blood from his lip. "It's not what you think. Nothing happened between us." But Amelia wouldn't let him explain. She clung to Leo's arm, her voice rising hysterically. "Don't deny it, Leo. Tell him the truth. Tell him that you love me." that we belong together. Michael let out a laugh, a broken, empty sound. So this is it. 10 years of friendship, down the drain, because you couldn't keep it in your pants. He looked at Amelia, his gaze turning to ice. And you're just a replacement. Is that it? Was I just keeping the seat warm for him? Yes, Amelia spat, her cruelty now on full display. You were always second best, Michael. Can't you see that? The final blow landed. Michael stared at her, his face crumbling. Then he looked at Leo, the last glimmer of friendship dying in his eyes. Leo, seeing the catastrophic misunderstanding spiraling out of control, desperate to salvage something, anything, from the wreckage, played his last desperate card. Both of you, get out of my house, he said, his voice shaking with a rage of his own. I'm done with this. I'm done with both of you. I'm getting married. The statement dropped into the room like a bomb. Both Michael and Amelia stared at him, mouths agape. You're what? They said in unison. I'm getting married, he repeated, the lie now his only shield. Her name is Layla, and I'm in love with her. Last night, I was at her parents' house, meeting my future in-laws. So whatever this sick, twisted game you two are playing is, leave me out of it. The conviction in his voice was so absolute, so unwavering, that for a moment, it silenced them both. I don't believe you, Amelia whispered, but her voice lacked its earlier certainty. You don't have to, Leo said, his voice cold as steel. But if you still don't, then let's all have dinner tomorrow night. The four of us. I'll bring Layla. You can meet my fiancé for yourself. Then you'll see. Then you'll finally leave me alone. Michael just stared at him, his face a canvas of betrayal and confusion. Fine, he finally choked out. Tomorrow night, let's see this phantom fiancé of yours. With that, he turned and walked out of the house, not looking back. Amelia, defeated and humiliated, followed a moment later. Leo was left alone in the wreckage of his life, with one thought pounding in his head. Now I have to find Layla, and I have to convince her to be my fiancé. Left alone in the deafening silence of his mansion, Leo watched Michael and Amelia leave, their separate cars pulling out of his driveway like two ships passing in the night. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind the bitter, metallic taste of desperation. He had created a fiancé out of thin air, a lie so monumental it had its own gravitational pull, and now he had less than 24 hours to make her real. He found me just as I was leaving work, my headphones on, blissfully unaware of the drama that had consumed his morning. I was just unlocking my beat-up scooter when I saw him standing by the gate of my office building, looking utterly out of place in his designer suit against the backdrop of the industrial park. Layla, he called out, jogging towards me. Leo, what are you doing here? I asked, pulling off my headphones, my heart giving a nervous little flutter. We need to talk, he said, his expression a mixture of urgency and sheepishness. Can I take you to dinner? Dinner? I eyed him suspiciously. What's the catch? No catch, he said, a little too quickly. Just a proposition. My treat. Please? Something in his eyes, a kind of frantic, cornered animal look, made me agree. Fine, I sighed, but somewhere not too expensive this time. He ignored my request and took me to a high-end Japanese restaurant, where a single piece of sushi probably cost more than my hourly wage. The place was all dark wood and minimalist design, quiet and intimidating. Why do I get the feeling you're trying to butter me up? I asked as a waiter in a crisp uniform poured us both green tea. Because I am, he admitted, not meeting my eyes. He picked up his chopsticks, fumbled with them for a moment, then set them down. He took a deep breath. Layla, I need you to do something for me. something bigger than last time. And then he told me everything. The whole sordid, unbelievable mess. Amelia showing up, Michael walking in, the punch, the accusations, and the final, desperate, nuclear option of a lie he had deployed to save himself. "You told them you're engaged to me?" I whispered, my voice a squeak of disbelief. I looked around the hushed restaurant, half expecting everyone to be staring at us. "It was the only thing I could think of," he said, his voice a low, pleading groan. "She was backing me into a corner," he thought. He thought I had betrayed him. I had to make them believe I had moved on, completely. "So you're not just asking me to be your fake girlfriend for an evening," I clarified, my mind struggling to process the sheer insanity of it all. "You're asking me to be your fake fiancé, in front of your ex-love and your ex-best friend." "Essentially, yes," he said, looking at me with wide, desperate eyes. "It's just for one dinner. Tomorrow night, we'll go. You'll be brilliant and charming. They'll see that we're a real couple, and then they'll leave me alone forever. And this whole nightmare will be over." I stared at him. Was he insane? Had the drama in his life finally fried his brain? "No," I said flatly. "Absolutely not. This is your mess, Leo. You got yourself into it. You can get yourself out of it. My part of the bargain is done. I got my laptop back. We're square." The food arrived just then. A beautiful, artful arrangement of fish and rice that I suddenly had no appetite for. He watched me, his expression falling. "Layla, please," he said, his voice soft. "I'm begging you. If I don't show up with you tomorrow, I'll lose him forever. Our friendship. It means everything to me. And if he thinks I've been lying about this, too, it's over. For good." He looked so genuinely heartbroken, so utterly lost, that despite myself, I felt a pang of sympathy. This wasn't about him being a rich guy in a jam. This was about him trying to save the most important relationship in his life. "You're unbelievable," I muttered, picking up a piece of tuna. The cost of it made my eyes water. "You create this insane drama, and then you expect me to come in and be your leading lady. I know it's a lot to ask," he said, "but I'll make it worth your while. Anything you want. Name it." I thought about it. The absurdity of it all. The sheer, cinematic drama of it. A small, reckless part of me was intrigued, and another, more practical part of me saw an opportunity. "Fine," I said, putting my chopsticks down. "I'll do it, but on one condition." His eyes lit up. "Anything. You have to promise me," I said, leaning forward, my voice low and serious, "that after this dinner, you, Amelia, and Michael will disappear from my life. This drama of yours, it's exhausting. I want out. For good." "Done," he said immediately, relief washing over his face. "After tomorrow night, you'll never have to hear our names again. I promise." "Okay then," I said, picking my chopsticks back up. "Let's eat. You're paying, remember?" For the rest of the meal, he was back to the charming, funny Leo I'd seen at the coffee shop. He made me laugh, and for a little while, I almost forgot I was agreeing to participate in a high-stakes emotional deception. As he walked me back to my scooter, a thought occurred to me. "You know," I said, "after what you told me, I kinda get it, how you feel about Amelia." He stopped, looking at me. "You do?" "Yeah," I said, thinking of all the hours I'd poured into online worlds, the friendships I'd forged, the victories I'd celebrated. When you invest 10 years of your life into something, into someone, walking away feels like you're losing a part of yourself. It leaves a hole. He looked at me, a new understanding in his eyes. "You get it," he said softly. You really get it. In that moment, under the soft glow of the streetlights, a fragile, unexpected connection formed between us. It wasn't romance. It was something quieter, deeper. It was recognition. The next evening, my house was once again a flurry of activity. This time, however, it wasn't for my mother, but for his. Leo had called earlier. Change of plans, he'd said, his voice tight with stress. My mother just flew in from a trip, unannounced. She heard about the Amelia situation from my driver and decided to come home early to run interference. Your mother? I squeaked, my blood running cold. I have to meet your mother now. It's a good thing, trust me, he'd assured me. She can't stand Amelia. She'll be on our side. Just be yourself. She likes people who are genuine, and she's making dinner, so we don't have to go out. 8 o'clock. I'll pick you up. So now, I was standing in front of my closet, having the same crisis as the week before, but amplified by a factor of 1,000. Meeting the fake boyfriend's parents was one thing. Meeting the fake fiancé's mother, who was also a millionaire matriarch who had flown in to handle her son's romantic entanglements, was another level of terror entirely. Just wear the blue shirt and jeans, my own mother advised, now fully invested in my fake relationship. You look nice in that, and remember to be polite. Call her Mrs. Davenport, and for heaven's sake, stand up straight. Leo arrived looking even more nervous than I felt. He'd bought another, even bigger fruit basket. Is this your thing? I asked, eyeing the mountain of produce. Panic buying fruit? My mother likes fruit, he mumbled, adjusting his tie for the 10th time. Are you ready? No, I said honestly. Let's do this. His mother, a woman named Catherine, was formidable. She was tall, elegant, and had the kind of piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you, past the cheap jeans and into the terrified, fraudulent core of your soul. She greeted me with a cool, polite smile, her gaze sweeping over me in a swift clinical assessment. So, she said, her voice as crisp as a starched linen napkin. You're Layla. Yes, ma'am, I said, my voice coming out an octave higher than usual. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me. The dinner was the most nerve-wracking meal of my life. Catherine was a master of interrogation, disguised as polite conversation. She asked about my family, my education, my job, my 5-year plan. I answered as best I could, feeling Leo's tense energy beside me. He kept trying to steer the conversation, to praise me in ways that sounded increasingly outlandish, but his mother would just smile coolly and return her laser-like focus to me. I decided my only hope was radical honesty, minus the fake engagement part, of course. I talked about my passion for design, my love for the collaborative world of online gaming, and my simple, uncomplicated life. I didn't try to be someone I wasn't. And then, something strange happened. I think she started to like me. A genuine warmth crept into her eyes. She laughed at one of my jokes. A real, throaty laugh. She started calling Amelia that tiresome girl, and remarked that Leo needed someone with a bit of grit. By the time we moved to the living room for dessert, I was actually starting to relax. Catherine was telling a story about Leo falling into a pond as a child when the doorbell rang. A sudden, tense silence fell over the room. Leo's face went pale. They're here, he whispered. He went to the door, and a moment later, walked back in with Michael and Amelia in tow. The air in the room instantly dropped 20 degrees. Amelia was dressed in a stunning white dress, looking like a tragic angel. Michael just looked broken. Amelia's eyes landed on me, sitting on the couch next to Catherine, and her polite smile faltered. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my simple clothes and lack of makeup. It was a look of pure, unadulterated disdain. Catherine stood up, her posture radiating icy authority. Amelia, Michael. What a surprise, Catherine, Amelia said, recovering quickly and adopting a sweet, deferential tone. We were just in the neighborhood and wanted to say hello. I see, Catherine said, her voice making it clear she didn't believe a word of it. Leo cleared his throat, his hand coming to rest on my shoulder. The gesture felt surprisingly steadying. Mom, you know Amelia and Michael, and this, he said, his voice ringing with a false confidence, is my fiancé, Layla. The word hung in the air, audacious and unbelievable. I forced a smile, feeling like the world's biggest imposter. Amelia's eyes narrowed, a flash of venom in their depths. Michael just stared at me, his expression a mixture of hurt and morbid curiosity. The four of us sat there, on opposite couches, with Catherine presiding over the tense silence like a judge. This wasn't a friendly dinner. It was a showdown, and I was the star witness in a case I knew nothing about. The air in the living room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Amelia, recovering from her initial shock, plastered on a smile that was all teeth and sharp edges. She looked from Leo to me, her eyes lingering on his hand, which was still resting protectively on my shoulder. Fiancé? She cooed, her voice dripping with disbelief. Oh, Leo, you move so fast. We were all just together a few weeks ago. I had no idea you were even seeing someone so seriously. Her gaze flicked to me, dismissive and cold. I'm Amelia. It's lovely to meet you. Layla? I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Nice to meet you too. Michael remained silent, his eyes fixed on me. It wasn't an aggressive stare, but an intensely curious one, as if he were trying to deconstruct a magic trick to see how it was done. He was trying to figure out who this woman was, this supposed fiancé who had appeared out of nowhere and completely upended the narrative he thought he understood. Catherine, ever the queen of her domain, gestured elegantly towards the empty couch. Well, since you're here, you might as well sit down. Though I must say, Amelia, I'm surprised to see you. I thought you and Michael were on your honeymoon. The jab was subtle, but it landed with surgical precision. A flash of irritation crossed Amelia's face before she smoothed it over with another saccharine smile. We decided to cut it short. Family matters, she said vaguely, shooting a pointed look at Leo. The four of us, the fake couple and the broken couple, sat in a tableau of excruciating awkwardness. Leo, sensing the need to fill the silence, launched into a frantic monologue, talking about a recent business trip, the weather, a new restaurant he'd tried, anything to avoid the colossal elephant in the room. I tried to play my part, nodding along, occasionally adding a small, supportive comment like, "Oh, yes, that was a wonderful evening," to a dinner I had never attended. It was exhausting. Michael finally spoke, his voice low and raspy. He wasn't looking at Leo or Amelia. He was looking directly at me. "So, Layla," he began, his tone deceptively casual. "How did you and Leo meet?" I froze. It was the one question we hadn't prepared for. My mind went completely blank. Leo, sensing my panic, jumped in. "We met through a mutual friend," he said smoothly. "It was at a party. I saw her from across the room and, well, I knew I had to talk to her." He squeezed my shoulder, sending a silent signal. "Play along." "It's true," I added, finding my voice. "I almost didn't go that night. It's funny how a small decision can change your whole life." The lie felt surprisingly natural on my tongue. Amelia let out a small, tinkling laugh that sounded anything but amused. How romantic. A party. And when was this fateful party? Exactly. She was testing us, trying to find the cracks in our story. I could feel Leo tense beside me, but before either of us could answer, a new voice entered the conversation. A voice I knew all too well, though I'd never heard it in person. The voice from my headset. "Hey, sorry I'm late. The traffic was insane." A man walked into the living room from the hallway. He was handsome in a rugged, unassuming way, dressed in jeans and a casual button-down shirt. He stopped when he saw the assembled group, a look of confusion on his face. It took me a second to place him without the digital avatar and the gamer tag. It was Mark, the leader of my online gaming team, the guy I had spent hundreds of hours with, strategizing, fighting, and winning. The guy I thought of as one of my closest friends, even though we had never, ever met. My jaw dropped. "Mark, what? What are you doing here?" He broke into a wide, relieved grin when he saw me. "Layla, there you are. I was starting to think I had the wrong house." He turned to Leo. "You must be Leo. I'm Mark. We spoke on the phone. Thanks again for setting this up." I looked from Mark to Leo, my mind reeling. Leo had a faint, guilty blush on his cheeks. You two know each other," I stammered. "Know each other?" Mark laughed. "This guy is my new hero. He called me out of the blue, said he was a friend of yours, and that you were too shy to ask me out on a proper date yourself. He set this whole thing up. A blind date for the star player of his favorite gaming team. Can you believe it?" The room fell into a stunned silence. I stared at Leo, my eyes wide with a mixture of horror and a strange, reluctant admiration for his sheer, audacious cunning. He hadn't just invented a fiancé. He had invented an entire backstory, a meet-cute, and had cast one of my actual friends to play a supporting role. All without my knowledge. Amelia looked like she had been slapped. Her carefully constructed interrogation had just been blown to pieces by this unexpected, verifiable piece of our history. Michael looked even more confused, his brow furrowed in thought. Catherine, however, looked thoroughly, unequivocally delighted. She beamed at Leo, a look of pure maternal pride on her face. "My brilliant, scheming son," her expression seemed to say. Leo gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible shrug that said, "Sorry." I had to make it believable. The rest of the evening was a masterclass in improvisational theater. Mark, completely oblivious to the tangled web of romantic agony he had walked into, was a fantastic blind date. He was charming, funny, and talked about our gaming adventures with a genuine affection that made our connection seem completely real. He and I fell into our usual easy banter, the chemistry honed by years of late-night raids translating surprisingly well into the real world. Leo played the part of the gracious, benevolent matchmaker to perfection, while I did my best to act like a woman who was slowly being won over. The tension between the two couches was still palpable, but the dynamic had shifted. Amelia could no longer poke holes in our story. She could only sit and watch, her face growing tighter and more strained with every laugh that passed between me and Mark. By the end of the night, when Michael and Amelia finally made their stilted excuses and left, the victory was absolute. We had done it. We had sold the lie, after Mark, still cheerfully oblivious, had also said his goodbyes. "We should do this again, Layla. For real this time." I finally turned to Leo. His mother had discreetly vanished upstairs, leaving us alone. "You," I said, pointing a finger at his chest, "are the most manipulative, insane person I have ever met." He had the grace to look sheepish. "It worked, didn't it? You brought my online friend into this. You lied to him. You lied to me. I needed a witness," he said, a slow grin spreading across his face. "And I needed a backstory that Amelia couldn't dispute. It was a calculated risk." I just stared at him, shaking my head. I should have been furious. I was. a little, but mostly I was impressed and confused, and a whole lot of other things I didn't have names for. My life was so simple before I met you, I said, sinking onto the couch. It was just me and my laptop. Was it better? He asked, his voice suddenly serious. He sat down next to me, not too close, but near enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I thought about it, the quiet, lonely nights, the Cold War with my mother, the feeling of being perpetually on the outside of life, looking in. No, I admitted in a small voice. It wasn't better. It was just quieter. He nodded, a soft, understanding look in his eyes. We sat there in a comfortable silence for a moment. The battle was over. We had won. But as I looked at him, at this complicated, brilliant, messed up man who had turned my life upside down, I had a sinking feeling that the war was far from over. A few days later, I was on the bridge again, the place where it had all started. It had become a strange sort of ritual for me, a place to go and clear my head. I was leaning against the railing, watching the water flow beneath, when I heard a voice. "Fancy meeting you here." I turned. It was Michael. He was alone. He looked better. The haunted, broken look in his eyes had been replaced by a quiet resolve. "Michael," I said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Walking," he said with a small shrug. "Trying to figure things out. Can I join you?" "Sure." He leaned against the railing beside me. We stood in silence for a few moments, watching the sun begin to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "So," he said finally, "the engagement, is it real?" I hesitated. The deal was done. The lie had been told. Leo's friendship was, for now, safe. There was no reason to continue the charade. "No," I said, the truth feeling like a relief. "It's not real." He nodded slowly, as if he had expected that answer. "I didn't think so," he said. "It all seemed too convenient, too perfect." He turned to look at me, a sad, knowing smile on his face. "He's still in love with her, isn't he?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "It's complicated. It always is with them," he said, a hint of the old bitterness creeping back into his voice. "I filed for divorce this morning." "Oh, Michael, I'm so sorry." "Don't be," he said, shaking his head. "It's for the best. You can't build a life with someone who's always looking over their shoulder for someone else. I deserve better than that." He paused, his gaze thoughtful as he looked at me. "And so does he. He deserves better than her." He looked at me for a long moment, and I felt a strange shift in the air between us. "You know," he said quietly, "you're not at all what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Someone more like her, I guess. Polished, perfect. But you're real. What you see is what you get." I like that. A blush crept up my neck. "Thanks, I think." He smiled, a genuine smile this time. It changed his whole face, making him look years younger. "Hey," he said, his tone turning lighter. "I know this is weird, but would you want to get a coffee sometime? As friends, two people who have been dragged through the Davenport-Amelia emotional vortex. We could compare notes." I looked at him, this man who, just a week ago, had been a stranger, a rival, a piece in someone else's game, and I saw not a broken husband, but just a guy, a nice guy who had been through hell and was trying to find his way out. "Yeah," I said, a real smile spreading across my own face. "I'd like that." As we walked off the bridge together, making plans to meet, I had the strangest feeling that while one chapter of this insane drama was closing, another one was just beginning. And for the first time, It felt like it might actually be my own. My newfound peace, however, was as fragile as a pane of glass. For over a month, I existed in a strange limbo. I kept my promise, politely declining Michael's invitations and ignoring Leo's increasingly frequent texts. I threw myself into my work, into my games, trying to rebuild the quiet, simple life they had so thoroughly demolished. My mother, seeing the absence of both men, retreated back into her icy disapproval, and the Cold War resumed. But something was wrong. A subtle, internal shift that I initially dismissed as stress. I was tired all the time. A deep, bone-wearying exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. The smell of coffee, once my favorite morning ritual, now made my stomach churn. And then, one Tuesday morning, I stood in the sterile silence of my bathroom, staring at the calendar on my phone. And the fragile glass of my peace didn't just crack, it shattered. I was late. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I raced to the 24-hour pharmacy, my heart pounding a frantic, terrified rhythm against my ribs. I bought the cheapest test I could find, hiding the box at the bottom of my bag like it was a bomb. Back in the bathroom, the world seemed to shrink to the size of that small plastic stick in my trembling hand. The instructions were a blur. The 3 minutes I had to wait felt like an eternity, a lifetime. I sat on the cold tile floor, hugging my knees to my chest, listening to the frantic ticking of the clock in my head. It's nothing, I told myself. It's just stress. My cycle is off because of the stress. But when the timer on my phone buzzed, and I forced myself to look, there was no denying it. 2 stark, unforgiving blue lines. Positive. The single, drunken, desperate night of rebellion. The one catastrophic mistake. It wasn't just a memory anymore. It wasn't a story I could choose to forget. It was real. It was growing inside of me. I didn't cry. I was too far gone for tears. I just sat there, on the cold floor, as the full weight of my new reality crashed down on me. I was pregnant, with a stranger's baby, a man whose last name I barely knew, a man who was tangled up in a decade-long emotional war with 2 other people. My mother's ultimatum suddenly seemed like a childish game. This was real life, in its most terrifying and irreversible form. The dream of a quiet, simple life was over. I wasn't just Layla the gamer, or Layla the disappointing daughter anymore. I was Layla, the single mother-to-be, and I was utterly, completely alone. The decision to tell Leo wasn't a choice. It was an inevitability. He had a right to know. But how? How do you call a man you barely know and tell him you're carrying his child? It turned out I didn't have to. He found me. A few days later, he was waiting for me after work again. The sight of his expensive car parked by my beat-up scooter was becoming a familiar, jarring sight. "Layla," he said, his voice laced with a frustration I recognized all too well. "Why haven't you been answering my calls?" "I told you, Leo," I said, my voice flat, hollowed out by my secret. "I'm out. The show is over." "This isn't a show," he insisted, his eyes pleading. "What I said on the terrace, I meant it. I can't stop thinking about you." I let out a laugh, a bitter, broken sound. "You're not in love with me, Leo. You're in love with the idea of me, the idea of an escape." "That's not true," he said, stepping closer. "Let me prove it to you. Let's go out. A real date. No lies, no games." I looked at his handsome, earnest face, and the secret I was carrying felt like a lead weight in my stomach. The time for games was over. "I can't," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Why not?" I looked away, at the gray, unforgiving pavement. "Because I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was absolute. I could feel his stare on me, feel him processing the word, I finally forced myself to meet his gaze. His face was pale, his eyes wide with a shock that mirrored my own from a few days prior. "Pregnant?" he repeated, his voice strained. From that night, I nodded, unable to speak. He just stood there, running a hand through his hair over and over again. He looked from my face to my stomach, as if he could somehow see the microscopic life that had just detonated our worlds. I braced myself for the reaction, the anger, the denial, the offer of money for an arrangement. But what he did next surprised me completely. He took a deep, shaky breath. He looked me straight in the eye, and his expression, which had been one of shock, slowly softened into a look of fierce, unwavering resolve. "Okay," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Okay." He took my hands in his. They were warm and steady. "Marry me, Layla." I gaped at him. "What? No! Leo, that's insane. We don't know each other. We can't get married because of this." "Why not?" he argued, his grip on my hands tightening. "It's the right thing to do. It's my responsibility. And it's not just that. I told you how I feel. This doesn't change that. It speeds things up. This isn't a fairy tale, Leo," I cried, pulling my hands away. "This is damage control. People don't get married like this. We're not other people," he said simply. "We've never done anything the normal way, have we? Look, Layla, you're scared. I'm scared. But we can do this. Together. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of our baby. I promise. Just say yes." I looked at him, at this man who was both a complete stranger and the most intimate person in my life. I thought of facing my mother, of facing the world, alone. I thought of the tiny, blameless life inside me, and I knew, with a devastating certainty, that I didn't have a choice. This wasn't a proposal, it was a lifeline, and so I surrendered. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, Leo, I'll marry you." The news spread like a shockwave. My mother, upon hearing of the pregnancy and the engagement in the same breath, went through a rapid-fire sequence of horror, fury, and finally, a profound, overwhelming relief. Her difficult, unmarriageable daughter was not only getting married, but she was marrying a Davenport. The scandal was eclipsed by the victory. Catherine was, surprisingly, overjoyed. "A grandchild," she'd exclaimed over the phone, her usual icy composure melting away. "Finally. Oh, this is the most wonderful news. We must plan the wedding immediately." Suddenly, my life was no longer my own. It was a whirlwind of wedding planners, venue tours, and dress fittings, all orchestrated by our two formidable mothers. Leo and I were just passengers on a high-speed train we couldn't stop. Meanwhile, in a quiet house across town, Amelia was wasting away. She had locked herself in her childhood bedroom, refusing to see anyone, refusing to eat. Her mother, frantic with worry, finally did the only thing she could think of. She called Michael. He found Amelia pale and thin, a ghost of her former vibrant self. He came bearing not flowers, but a container of warm porridge he had made himself. "Go away," she said, her voice a weak croak from under her blankets. "You need to eat," he said gently, sitting on the edge of her bed. "Come on, Amelia, just a few bites." He was patient. He coaxed her, and eventually, she sat up and let him feed her, like a child. As she ate, he talked, filling the silence with trivialities. And then, he told her, "Leo is getting married," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Next month." To Layla, Amelia froze, the spoon halfway to her lips. "What? They're getting married?" he repeated. He's happy, Amelia. He's moving on. The bowl of porridge crashed to the floor. No, she shrieked, her eyes blazing with a sudden, terrifying fire. He's lying. It's a trick. He loves me. He's supposed to be with me. It's not a trick, Michael said, his voice sad. It's real. It's time to let him go. Get out, she hissed, pointing a trembling finger at the door. Get out of my house. I never want to see you again. He left, and as he closed the door behind him, he knew he had just lit a match. He just didn't know how big the explosion would be. The stalking started subtly. A white convertible parked at the end of my street. A flash of a familiar face in a crowd at the mall. I told myself I was being paranoid, but then came the night she cornered me. I had taken the trash out, just like I did every Tuesday night. The street was quiet, wrapped in the suburban dark. As I turned to walk back to my house, a car slid up to the curb, its engine a low, predatory hum. The passenger window rolled down. It was Amelia. Get in, she said. It wasn't a request. Amelia, what do you want? I asked, my heart starting to pound. I just want to talk, she said, her smile bright and terrifying. It'll only take 5 minutes. It's cold out here. Get in. My every instinct screamed at me to run. But she looked so calm, so rational. Maybe she just needed closure. Reluctantly, I opened the door and slid into the passenger seat. The moment the door clicked shut, the locks engaged with a heavy thud. Amelia slammed her foot on the accelerator. The car lurched forward, tires squealing, throwing me back against the plush leather seat. What are you doing? I yelled, fumbling for the door handle. It wouldn't budge. Let me out. She just laughed, a high, unhinged sound. You really thought it would be that easy. You thought you could just steal him from me. She was flying down the residential streets, ignoring stop signs, the speedometer climbing higher and higher. The world outside was a terrifying, incomprehensible blur. You're crazy, I screamed. My hands braced against the dashboard. You're going to kill us. That's the idea, she said, her voice chillingly calm. She turned to look at me, her eyes glittering with a terrifying light. If I can't have him, no one can. We're going to die together, you and I. A tragic accident, the grieving fiancé. It's all very romantic, don't you think? In that moment of pure, undiluted terror, I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about the tiny, secret life inside me. This insane woman wasn't just threatening to kill me. She was threatening to kill my child. A desperate, primal survival instinct took over. Stop the car, I screamed, my voice raw with panic. Stop the car, and I'll give him to you. The words seemed to penetrate her haze of madness. She glanced at me, her brow furrowed. What did you say? I'll give him back, I sobbed, the tears coming now, hot and real. I'll leave. I'll disappear. You can have him. I don't want to die. Please. Just let me out. She started to slow down, the car gradually coasting to a stop on a deserted stretch of road. She turned to me, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. You're lying. I'm not, I insisted, my voice frantic. What do I care about him if I'm dead? He's yours, I promise. I'll break off the engagement. I'll move away. You'll never see me again. Just let me live. She stared at me for a long, agonizing moment, weighing my words. Finally, she seemed to believe me. With a final, vicious press of a button, the locks disengaged. I didn't wait for a second invitation. I threw the door open and scrambled out, falling to my knees on the gravel shoulder of the road. I gasped for air, my body shaking uncontrollably. Amelia got out of the car and walked over to me, looking down at my pathetic, trembling form. You made a promise, Layla, she said, her voice cold as ice. If you break it, I'll find you, and next time, I won't stop the car. With that, she got back in her white convertible and drove off into the night, leaving me alone in the darkness, a survivor of a war I had never even known I was fighting. I don't know how long I stayed there, on my hands and knees, shaking. Eventually, I got to my feet and started the long, slow walk home. Each step was an effort. My world had been turned upside down, then righted, and now, finally, shattered into a million pieces. I had made a promise to a mad woman, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that to protect my child, I would have to keep it. I would have to break Leo's heart. I would have to destroy everything, just to survive. The walk home was a blur of streetlights and shadows. Every passing headlight sent a fresh jolt of terror through me, my body still humming with the adrenaline of survival. When I finally stumbled through my front door, my mother was waiting up, a worried frown on her face. Layla, where have you been? You look like you've seen a ghost. Just needed some air, I mumbled, my voice sounding distant and strange to my own ears. I'm really tired, Mom. I'm going to bed. I escaped to my room before she could ask any more questions. I didn't turn on the light. I just crawled under the covers, my clothes still on, and lay there, staring into the darkness. The promise I'd made to Amelia echoed in my mind, a death sentence for the fragile, fledgling happiness I had just started to feel. I'll give him back. I'll disappear. How? How could I do it in a way that would be final, in a way that would make him hate me, so he would let me go, for good? A simple, I don't love you, wouldn't be enough. He was too stubborn. I had to do something unforgivable, something so cruel, so monstrous, that it would sever any bond between us completely. And in the dark, desperate corners of my mind, a terrible idea began to take shape, an idea that would protect my baby, but would destroy everything else, including myself. The next morning, Leo showed up, his face bright with a happiness that was painful to see. He was carrying a bag from a fancy organic grocery store. "Morning, beautiful," he said, leaning in to kiss me. I turned my head at the last second, and his lips met my cheek. He pulled back, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. "Everything okay?" "Just tired," I said, my voice flat. He didn't push it. "I brought you some things," he said cheerfully, unpacking the bag on the kitchen counter. "Catherine said you need to be eating more folic acid. So, we've got kale and spinach and some other green stuff." He held up a bunch of leafy greens, looking perplexed. "Anyway, my mom is a machine. She's already booked the venue and the photographer. We're getting married in 3 weeks." Each happy, oblivious word was another twist of the knife in my gut. I had to do it now. Before I lost my nerve, I took a deep breath. "Leo, we need to talk." He stopped, the kale still in his hand. The smile faded from his face, replaced by a cautious concern. "What is it? Are you not feeling well? Is it the baby?" "The baby," I started, my voice trembling. I forced it to be cold, steady. "There is no baby." He stared at me, his brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "Layla, what are you talking about?" I said, looking him straight in the eye, my heart breaking with every syllable. "That I got rid of it. I had an abortion." The silence that filled the kitchen was absolute, a vacuum that sucked all the air out of the room. The bunch of kale slipped from his hand and landed on the floor with a soft thud. He just stared at me, his face a mask of utter disbelief. His skin seemed to lose its color, turning a pale, waxy gray. "You're joking," he whispered, his voice cracking. This is a joke. A sick, twisted joke. Tell me you're joking, Layla. Do I look like I'm joking? I asked, my voice as cold and brittle as ice. I'm not. It's done. He shook his head, a slow, jerky movement, as if his neck muscles had forgotten how to work. No, you wouldn't. Why? Why would you do that? This was the hardest part. The part where I had to become a monster. Because I don't want it, I said, the lie tasting like poison. I never did. Look at me, Leo. I'm not the mothering type. I don't want to get fat and ugly and covered in stretch marks. I don't want to spend my nights cleaning up puke and my days chained to a screaming baby. I want my life, my freedom. This whole thing, it was a mistake, a drunken mistake. He flinched as if I had physically struck him. His eyes, which had been filled with so much love and hope just moments before, now filled with a pain so profound it was almost unbearable to witness. A mistake? He choked out. Our child was a mistake. Yes, I said, forcing myself to hold his gaze. And the wedding is off. I'm not ready to get married. I was never ready. I was backed into a corner. It was a means to an end, but I'm not doing it. I'm not giving up my youth to play house with you. The tears finally spilled from his eyes, silent and devastating. They traced paths down his pale cheeks. He didn't make a sound. He just stood there, absorbing the verbal blows, his beautiful, happy world crumbling into dust around him. How could you? He finally whispered, his voice raw with a grief that tore me to shreds. It was our baby, our child. It was a part of us. It was a clump of cells that was going to ruin my life, I said, the cruelty of the words making me sick to my stomach. Now, if you don't mind, I'm feeling tired. The procedure took a lot out of me. I need to rest. He looked at me for a long, agonizing moment, his expression a mixture of heartbreak and a dawning, horrified disgust. He was looking at a stranger, a monster, and that's what I needed him to see. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the house. He didn't slam the door. He just closed it quietly behind him, a gesture of finality that was more devastating than any shouting match could have been. The moment he was gone, my legs gave out. I collapsed onto the kitchen floor, the sobs I had been holding back erupting in a violent, gut-wrenching torrent. I curled into a ball, my hands clutching the stomach where my baby was still safe, and I cried until there were no tears left. I'm sorry, I whispered to the tiny, innocent life inside me. I'm so sorry. Mommy is so sorry. Amelia knew Leo was hurting. She could feel it, a psychic pull towards his pain. She showed up at his mansion the next day, a vision of solicitous concern. She found him in his study, staring blankly out the window, a half-empty bottle of whiskey on the desk beside him. His mother, Catherine, was with him, her face etched with worry. When Catherine saw Amelia, her expression hardened. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice like ice. "I heard what happened," Amelia said, her voice soft and sympathetic, ignoring Catherine and speaking directly to Leo. "I heard that. That awful girl broke your heart. I came as soon as I heard. Oh, Leo, I'm so sorry." Leo didn't even turn around. "Go away, Amelia. Let me take care of you," she cooed, gliding into the room and placing a hand on his shoulder. "I knew she wasn't right for you. She's cold and cruel. She could never love you the way I do." Catherine stepped between them. He said, "Go away," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "Haven't you done enough damage? Leave my son alone." The confrontation was interrupted by the ringing of Leo's phone, which was lying on the desk. He didn't move to answer it. Amelia, seeing her chance to insinuate herself further, picked it up. "It's Michael," she said, her eyes glittering. She answered the call, her voice sweet as honey. "Hello?" On the other end of the line, Michael froze. "Amelia? What are you doing answering Leo's phone?" "Oh, hello, Michael," she said, her tone casual, intimate. "Leo's a little busy right now. He's just getting out of the shower." It was a lie, a calculated, venomous lie, designed to cause the maximum amount of damage. She looked around the room, at the unmade sofa in the corner of the study. "He's exhausted," she continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We had a long night, but don't you worry, I'm taking very good care of him." Michael's silence on the other end was deafening. He could hear the unspoken implications, the picture she was painting so skillfully. Amelia at Leo's house. Leo in the shower. The two of them together again while he was on the outside. A fool. "You know," Amelia purred, twisting the knife. "The engagement is off. It turns out that little tramp Layla wasn't who he thought she was. So we're picking up where we left off. It's for the best, don't you think? We were always meant to be together." With that, she hung up, a triumphant, vicious smile on her face. She had just destroyed the last remaining thread of a 10-year friendship, and she didn't care. Michael stood in his own empty house, the phone still pressed to his ear, the dial tone a mocking buzz. He felt a rage so pure, so absolute, it was almost clarifying. He had been played by both of them. His best friend and the woman he loved had betrayed him in the most profound way possible. He walked through his house, a ghost in his own life. He gathered every photo of them, of him and Amelia, of the three of them together, laughing in a past that now seemed like a lie. He took the wedding album, the clothes she had left behind, every memento of their shared history. He carried it all out to the backyard, piled it in the fire pit, doused it in lighter fluid, and struck a match. He watched as their faces, their smiles, their memories, curled and blackened, consumed by the flames. The heat was intense, but he didn't move. He felt nothing but a cold, hard emptiness. He twisted the wedding ring from his finger, the gold warm against his skin, and without a moment's hesitation, he threw it into the heart of the fire. "It's over," he said to the flames. "From this day forward, you are both dead to me." And in the flickering firelight, a new, terrible resolve was forged. It wasn't about love anymore. It wasn't even about heartbreak. It was about revenge, and he knew, with a chilling certainty, that he would have it. He would destroy Leo, just as Leo had destroyed him. That night, I told my mother. I stood in the living room, my bags packed, and delivered the same monstrous, heartbreaking lie. The wedding's off. We broke up, and I took care of the pregnancy. For a moment, she just stared at me, her face uncomprehending, and then her hand flew up, and she slapped me, hard, across the face. The sound cracked through the silent house. It was the first time she had ever hit me. "You are not my daughter," she whispered, her voice trembling with a rage and a grief that was terrifying to behold. "I don't know what you are, but you are not the child I raised. How could you be so selfish, so cruel? That was your baby, my grandchild." I stood there, the sting on my cheek, a pale imitation of the pain in my heart, and I took it. I had to. "I'm moving out," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm going to stay with a friend for a while. I need to be on my own." "Good," she spat, turning her back on me. "Go. As far as I'm concerned, I don't have a daughter anymore." I walked out of the house I had grown up in, the door closing on the sound of my mother's broken sobs. I was an orphan now, a pariah of my own making. I dragged my suitcase down the dark street, the wheels a lonely, mournful sound on the pavement. I was free, and I had never been more trapped in my entire life. The next morning, as I was driving my scooter to work, my body aching with a grief so profound it felt physical, a white convertible swerved aggressively in my lane. My heart leaped into my throat. It was her, Amelia. She cut me off, forcing me to slam on my brakes and swerve towards the curb. The scooter wobbled violently, and then went down. I landed hard on the asphalt, my knee scraping against the rough surface, sending a searing pain up my leg. I cried out, more in shock than in pain. "What is your problem?" I screamed as the convertible screeched to a halt. Amelia got out of the car. She wasn't smiling this time. Her face was a mask of cold fury. She strode over to where I was struggling to get up, a ripped hole in my jeans already welling up with blood. "That was intentional," she said, her voice low and menacing. "I wanted to make sure you got the message." "What message?" I gasped, clutching my bleeding knee. "I did what you said. I broke up with him. I told him things that would make sure he never speaks to me again." "What more do you want?" "It's not enough," she hissed, her eyes glittering with that same unhinged light I'd seen before. "He's still thinking about you. I can see it in his eyes. He's heartbroken, which means he's not over you. You weren't convincing enough. You need to be crueler. You need to disappear completely." "I am disappearing," I cried, the injustice of it all choking me. "I just moved out of my house. I have nothing left." "You're still here," she said, as if that were the ultimate crime. "You're still breathing the same air. I'm telling you, Layla, don't test me. I'm not playing games. I will run you off the road for real next time. I will put you in the hospital. I will end you. Do you understand me?" She leaned down, her face inches from mine, her voice a venomous whisper. "Stay away from him, or you will regret the day you were ever born." With that final, chilling threat, she turned, got back in her car, and sped away, leaving me crumpled on the side of the road, my knee bleeding, my body shaking, and my spirit completely and utterly broken. I didn't know how I was going to get up. My leg throbbed, but it was the terror that paralyzed me. This woman was a monster, and she would not stop until I was gone. Just as I was trying to haul my scooter upright, a car pulled over. The driver's side door opened. It was Michael. "Layla," he said, his voice filled with alarm as he rushed to my side. "My God, what happened? Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I lied, wincing as I put weight on my injured leg. "Just wiped out." He gently took the scooter from me, his eyes scanning my ripped jeans and the bloodied mess of my knee. "That looks bad," he said, his brow furrowed with concern. "Let me take you to a clinic." "No, really, it's just a scrape. I'll be fine. I have to get to work." I tried to hobble away, but he stopped me, his hand gentle on my arm. "Layla, wait," he said, his voice serious. I heard you and Leo broke up." I flinched, the emotional pain eclipsing the physical. "Yeah, so, why?" he asked, his gaze searching mine. "What happened?" "We just weren't a good match," I said, the lie feeling flimsy and pathetic. "Was it because of Amelia?" he pressed. "Because I know she was at his house yesterday. She answered his phone. She told me they were back together, that they had spent the night together." The world tilted on its axis. The air rushed from my lungs, while I was sacrificing everything, my happiness, my family, my future, to keep this mad woman away from him. He was with her, in his house, while I was being terrorized. They were reconciling. A new, unfamiliar emotion surged through me, hot and corrosive, It wasn't just heartbreak, it was rage. A deep, seismic rage at the unfairness, the betrayal of it all. I must have made a sound, a small, wounded noise, because Michael's expression softened with pity. "I'm so sorry, Layla," he said quietly. "He's a fool. They both are. They deserve each other." I just stared at him, the pieces clicking into place. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. I had become a monster for nothing. I had destroyed my own life to protect a man who had run straight back into the arms of the woman I was protecting him from. "Yeah," I finally managed to say, my voice thick with unshed tears. "You're right. They're both terrible people, and we're better off without them." He nodded, his eyes filled with a sad, shared understanding. "We are," he said. "Come on, let me at least give you a ride. You shouldn't be driving like this." In that moment, he wasn't Leo's rival or Amelia's ex-husband. He was just an ally. The only other person in the world who understood the specific kind of hell I was in. And for the first time, I didn't push him away. I let him help me. I let him take me to work. And as I sat in the passenger seat of his car, a fragile, unspoken alliance formed between us, forged in the fires of a shared betrayal. Despite my best efforts to disappear, Leo found me at my office. He'd gotten past security somehow, and he was waiting for me in the lobby, his face a mess of confusion and hurt. The sight of the bandage on my knee, which Michael had insisted on helping me apply, only deepened the worried frown on his face. "What happened to your leg?" was the first thing he asked. "Scooter accident," I said curtly. "What do you want, Leo?" "I don't understand," he said, his voice raw. "What you said yesterday. It can't be true. I know you. You're not that person. Someone is making you do this. Is it Amelia? Did she threaten you?" His perceptiveness was a liability I couldn't afford. The memory of Amelia's car swerving towards me, of her cold, dead eyes, flashed in my mind. The terror was still fresh, still potent. "Don't be ridiculous," I scoffed, forcing a coldness I didn't feel. "This has nothing to do with Amelia. This has to do with me. I told you, I'm not interested anymore. I got bored. It happens." I shrugged, a gesture of casual cruelty. "Maybe if you had more money, I would have stuck around longer. But honestly, the drama that comes with you just isn't worth the price tag." I was throwing everything at him, every cheap, materialistic, shallow insult I could think of. I needed to wound his pride, to make him disgusted by me. He stared at me, his expression shifting from hurt to a quiet, simmering anger. "You've changed," he said, his voice low. "The Layla I know, the one I fell for. She's gone. She was never there," I said, delivering the final, killing blow. "That was just an act. Now, please, leave. You're embarrassing me in front of my colleagues." I turned and walked away, not looking back, my heart a cold, heavy stone in my chest. I could feel his eyes on my back, but I didn't falter. I had to be strong. For my baby. That night, I moved out of my mother's house for good. I packed my life into 2 suitcases and a couple of boxes and dragged them to my friend Olivia's place. She had a small, furnished room above her garage that she rented out, and she agreed to let me stay there. No questions asked. After I showed up on her doorstep, my face streaked with tears. "What happened?" was all she asked, her voice filled with a gentle concern. "I can't talk about it yet," I whispered. "Okay," she said, wrapping me in a hug that I desperately needed. "The room is yours for as long as you need it. Just be safe, okay?" I moved my things into the small, clean room. It was tiny, impersonal, but it was a sanctuary, a place where I could hide, a place where Amelia couldn't find me. I stood by the small window, my hand resting on my still flat stomach. "It's just us now, little one," I whispered into the quiet room. "We're on our own, but we're going to be okay. I promise. I'll protect you." Days later, I was standing on the bridge, my bridge. It felt like the epicenter of my new, chaotic life. I was just staring at the water, trying to find a moment of quiet in my own head, when a familiar voice startled me. "We have to stop meeting like this." It was Michael. He looked better, lighter. A genuine smile touched his lips. "It's starting to feel like our spot," I admitted, a small smile of my own forming. "How have you been?" he asked, his expression turning serious. "I've been worried about you." "I'm surviving," I said. "Living in a shoebox above a garage, but surviving." "Good," he said. "Listen, I know I have no right to ask, but I keep thinking about what you said. About them. Is it really over?" "It's over," I confirmed. "Okay," he said, nodding. "In that case, do you remember when you said if we ever met here again, you'd buy me dinner?" I looked at him, surprised. A flicker of the old, easy camaraderie returned. "I did say that, didn't I said. "Okay, you're on. Where to?" He grinned. "I know just the place." He took me to the same high-end Japanese restaurant Leo had taken me to. The irony was so thick it was almost comical. As we ate, something strange happened. The food, which had been so delicious before, now tasted off. The smell of the raw fish, usually so clean and appealing, suddenly made my stomach roil. A wave of nausea, swift and powerful, washed over me. "Excuse me," I mumbled, clapping a hand over my mouth as I bolted from the table and ran towards the restroom. I barely made it in time, retching into the toilet, my body convulsing with violent, uncontrollable heaves. Morning sickness. It had finally arrived, with a vengeance. When I stumbled back out, my face pale and clammy, Michael was waiting for me by the door, his face a mask of concern. "Layla, are you okay?" He looked at my pale face, at the sheen of sweat on my forehead, and a new, sudden understanding dawned in his eyes. His gaze dropped from my face to my stomach. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet, gentle, but filled with an unshakable certainty. "Layla," he said, "are you pregnant?" The question hung in the air between us, sucking all the oxygen out of the hallway. I stared at Michael, my mind racing. I could lie, I could deny it, blame it on bad sushi, and try to maintain the fortress of solitude I was so desperately trying to build. But looking into his calm, perceptive eyes, I knew it was useless. He already knew. He wasn't guessing. He was confirming. The exhaustion of the past few weeks, of all the lies and the fear, finally caught up to me. My shoulders slumped in defeat. "Yes," I whispered. The admission, a quiet surrender. He didn't look shocked or disgusted. He just nodded slowly, a deep, thoughtful sadness in his eyes. He understood. In that moment, he understood everything. The breakup, the cruel words, my sudden disappearance. It all clicked into place for him. "It's his, isn't it?" he asked softly. "Leo's." I nodded again, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "And you lied," he continued, piecing it together. "You told him you got rid of it." "I had to," I whispered, the words tumbling out in a rush of desperate justification. "Amelia. She's crazy, Michael. She threatened me. She tried to run me off the road. She said if I didn't disappear, she would kill us both. I am so scared. I didn't know what else to do. It was the only way I could think of to protect the baby. I finally broke, the tears I had been holding back for weeks streaming down my face. He didn't say anything. He just stepped forward and pulled me into a hug. It wasn't a romantic embrace. It was a hug of pure, uncomplicated comfort, of solidarity. I buried my face in his shoulder and sobbed, letting go of all the fear and the loneliness and the grief. "It's okay," he murmured, his hand rubbing my back in slow, soothing circles. "It's okay. You're safe." When my sobs finally subsided, I pulled away, wiping my eyes, feeling raw and exposed, but also lighter. The burden of the secret, now shared, was a little easier to bear. "You can't tell him," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Michael, you have to promise me, please. If he knows, he'll come after me. He'll try to fix things. And she'll find out. I can't risk it. I can't." He looked at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. I could see the conflict in his eyes, the loyalty to his friend warring with the protective instinct he now felt for me. "Okay," he said finally, his voice firm. "I promise. I won't tell him." He paused, a new determined glint in his eye. "But this changes things, Layla. You can't do this alone. You need someone to look out for you, to protect you." He took a deep breath, and what he said next floored me completely. "Let me do it," he said, his voice quiet but filled with a startling intensity. "Let me be there for you. Let me be the father to this child." I stared at him, speechless. "What? Michael, no. You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious in my life," he insisted, his gaze unwavering. "Think about it. Leo is a disaster. His life is a hurricane of drama. Do you really want to bring a child into that? With Amelia hovering on the sidelines like a vulture, I can give you and this baby a safe, stable, quiet life. I'll take care of you. I'll love this child as if it were my own. I swear it. But we don't love each other," I stammered, my mind reeling from the sheer audacity of his proposal. "And you're just getting over Amelia. You're on the rebound." "Maybe," he admitted with a shrug. "But what I feel for you, it's real. It's respect. It's admiration. Love. Love can grow from that. It's a better foundation than a decade of obsession and lies. Don't you think? Just think about it. Please, don't say no right away." He paid for dinner, and on the silent, contemplative drive back to Olivia's, his words echoed in my head. A safe, stable, quiet life. It was everything I had ever wanted. It was an escape. It was a sanctuary. It was an impossible, crazy, and strangely tempting offer. Just as Michael dropped me off, a sleek black car pulled up behind his. Leo got out, his face a thundercloud. He had obviously been waiting for me. His driver, David, was in the passenger seat, looking deeply uncomfortable. He must have been ordered to follow me. "What the hell was that?" Leo demanded, storming over to us, his eyes blazing with a possessive fury. "What were you doing with him?" Michael stepped in front of me, a calm, protective barrier. "We had dinner, Leo." "It's none of your business." "None of my business?" Leo scoffed, his voice rising. She is my fiancée." He caught himself at the last second, the lie still a reflex. "She's not your fiancée," Michael said, his voice dangerously calm. "She's a free woman, and you'd do well to remember that. You gave up any right to her when you let Amelia back into your house." The two men stood face to face, a decade of friendship and rivalry simmering between them, ready to boil over. The air crackled with tension. "Both of you, stop it," I finally snapped, pushing my way between them. "I am not a prize to be fought over. I went to dinner with a friend. That's it. Now, both of you, go home." Leo looked at Michael, then at me, his jaw tight. "Get in the car, Layla." "No," I said, standing my ground. He grabbed my arm. I said, "Get in the car." Michael grabbed his other arm. She said, "No, Leo. Let her go." I was literally being pulled in two directions. A human tug of war. "Let go of me," I shrieked, yanking my arms free from both of them. The absurdity and the humiliation of it all was too much. "Are you insane? Look at you. I'm done. I am done with both of you. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at my work or my home. If either of you tries to contact me again, I swear to God, I will pack my bags, move to another state, and you will never, ever see me again. Am I clear?" They both stared at me, shocked into silence by my vehemence. "Now go," I said, my voice shaking with rage. I turned and walked away, not looking back, half expecting one of them to follow. But when I glanced over my shoulder from the safety of Olivia's doorway, they were both still standing there, on opposite sides of the street, watching me, two kings on a chessboard with no queen left to fight over. Later that night, Leo showed up at Michael's favorite bar. Michael was already there, nursing a whiskey. "I need to talk to you," Leo said, sliding onto the stool next to him. "I think we're done talking," Michael said without looking at him. "No, we're not," Leo insisted. "There's one thing I don't get. Why her? Why are you suddenly so interested in Layla?" Michael finally turned to look at him, a strange, sad smile on his face. "Because she's everything Amelia isn't," he said simply. "She's honest, she's strong, she's real, and she deserves better than you." The insult hung in the air. Leo, instead of getting angry, just looked tired. "Michael," he said, his voice low, "I need to know. What did Amelia say to you on the phone that day?" Michael told him. Every poisonous, calculated word. Leo's in the shower. "We had a long night. We're picking up where we left off." Leo's face went pale. "She lied," he said, his voice a choked whisper. "Michael, I swear to you, on our friendship, she was lying. I was downstairs with my mother. I never touched her. I told her to get out. You have to believe me." He looked into Leo's eyes, searching for the truth, and he saw it. The raw, desperate sincerity. He had been played masterfully. I'm a fool," Michael whispered, the realization dawning on him. "I let her do it. I let her turn me against you." "We were both fools," Leo said, a profound sadness in his voice. "We let her run our lives for 10 years. He paused, his gaze turning intense. "But I'm done. I love Layla, Michael, for real, and I'm not giving up on her." Michael looked down at his drink. He thought of my pale, terrified face in the restaurant. He thought of the promise he had made, and he thought of the child. A child that deserved its real father. A father who, for all his flaws, was finally waking up. "You're going to have to fight for her," Michael said, a new resolve in his own voice. "And you're going to have to earn her trust back. But there's something you need to know, something that changes everything." He leaned in, and in the dim, whiskey-scented light of the bar, he broke his promise. He told Leo everything. I was asleep when the pounding on my door started. It was after midnight. My heart leaped into my throat. Amelia, she'd found me. I grabbed the sharpest thing I could find, a pair of scissors from my sewing kit, and crept to the door. "Who is it?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Layla, it's me. It's Leo. Open the door." His voice was thick with an emotion I couldn't place. Relief warred with a new kind of fear. I slowly, cautiously, unlocked the door and opened it a crack. He looked terrible. His face was bruised and swollen on one side, a cut on his lip. "What happened to you?" I gasped, opening the door wider. Michael and I, we had a disagreement, he said, a pained smile touching his swollen lips. Then we had a reconciliation. It was productive. He stepped into my tiny room, his presence overwhelming the small space. He looked at me, his eyes filled with a love and a sorrow and a fierce protectiveness that took my breath away. I know, he said softly. Michael told me everything about the baby, about Amelia, about why you left. He reached out and gently touched my cheek. You don't have to be scared anymore, Layla. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making this up to you and protecting you both. I swear it. And in that moment, in my tiny, borrowed room, with this bruised and battered man standing before me, the walls I had built around my heart finally, completely crumbled. The next few months were a strange, beautiful dream. Leo was true to his word. He became my shadow, my protector, my partner. He dealt with Amelia. I don't know what he said or did, but the threats stopped. She simply vanished. He moved me out of the tiny room and into his home over my strenuous objections. His mother, Catherine, was a doting, overjoyed grandmother-to-be, fussing over me, cooking for me, and treating me not like an imposter, but like the daughter she'd always wanted. We decided to get married, a real wedding this time, a small, simple ceremony, with just our families and a few close friends. On the morning of the wedding, I was in the bridal suite of the hotel. Michael owned a wedding gift. He'd insisted, getting the final touches put on my hair and makeup. I looked in the mirror at the woman staring back at me. She was radiant, her belly a gentle, promising curve under the soft white fabric of the dress. She looked happy, genuinely, unbelievably happy. The door opened. I expected to see my mother or Catherine. Instead, two large, unfamiliar men in dark suits stepped into the room. Behind them was the makeup artist I had just met that morning. Her face was grim. Before I could scream, she lunged forward, a cloth clamped in her hand. A sweet, cloying smell filled my nostrils. I struggled, but the two men held me fast. My vision swam, the room tilted, and as the darkness closed in, the last thing I heard was a woman's voice, a voice I recognized with a sickening lurch of terror. Take her. It was Amelia. I woke up in darkness. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of dust and decay. I was lying on a dirty mattress on the floor of what looked like an abandoned warehouse. My beautiful white dress was stained with dirt. My hair was a mess. Panic, cold and absolute, seized me. I scrambled to my feet, my hand going instinctively to my belly. The baby. Was the baby okay? I stumbled towards the only light, a sliver coming from under a large, rusted metal door. As I got closer, I heard voices, male voices, low and rough. She's awake. So, what are we supposed to do now? Amelia said to wait. She said, we get to have some fun with the bride before the groom shows up. A coarse, ugly laugh followed. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a kidnapping. This was something far, far worse. I backed away from the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked around the vast, empty space, searching for an escape, for a weapon. There was nothing. I was trapped. The door creaked open. 3 men stepped in, their silhouettes dark and menacing against the light from outside. They saw me, and they smiled. It was the most terrifying smile I had ever seen. Well, the biggest one said, taking a step towards me. Look what we have here. A beautiful bride, all alone. It's your lucky day, sweetheart. You get 3 grooms instead of 1. I opened my mouth to scream, but the sound that came out was a strangled, pathetic whimper. There was nowhere to run. Just as they started to close in on me, a loud, explosive bang echoed through the warehouse. One of the men cried out and crumpled to the ground, clutching his leg. The other two froze, spinning around in terror. Framed in the doorway, like avenging angels, stood Leo and Michael. Michael was holding a handgun, his expression grim and resolute. Leo's eyes found mine across the cavernous space. I saw the terror, the rage, and the profound, overwhelming love in his gaze. He didn't hesitate. He ran to me, scooping me into his arms, shielding me with his own body. "It's okay," he sobbed, his voice cracking, his tears wetting my hair. "I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've got you. You're safe now." I clung to him, shaking uncontrollably, the terror finally giving way to a wave of soul-shattering relief. He was here. He had found me. We were safe. The aftermath was a blur. Police, ambulances, the 3 men, and Amelia were arrested. It turned out Michael, whose work was in private security, had been secretly tracking Amelia's phone ever since her first threat, fearing she would do something drastic. When she went off the grid on my wedding day, he and Leo knew something was terribly wrong. They had found me just in time, in the quiet, sterile room of the hospital, where they had taken me to be checked out. Leo never left my side. He held my hand, his grip a constant, reassuring presence. The baby was fine. I was fine. We were all miraculously fine. Later that evening, Michael came to visit, a bouquet of flowers in his hand. But he wasn't alone. With him was Olivia, my friend, my landlady, my rock. They were holding hands. "You too?" I asked, my eyebrows shooting up in surprise. Olivia blushed. "He's been very persistent," she said, a shy smile on her face, "and very sweet." "She's incredible," Michael said, his eyes shining with a genuine, uncomplicated happiness that I had never seen in him before. I think I'm finally learning what real love feels like." Leo and I just looked at each other, and we smiled. The chaos was over. The storm had passed, and in its wake, something beautiful and unexpected had begun to grow. 3 months later, we finally had our wedding, not in a fancy hotel, but in the backyard of Leo's childhood home, surrounded by green grass and blooming flowers. It was small and perfect. I was 7 months pregnant, and I had never felt more beautiful. Michael was Leo's best man, and Olivia was my maid of honor. Our 2 mothers cried through the entire ceremony. As Leo and I said our vows, looking into each other's eyes, I thought about the insane, unbelievable journey that had brought us to this moment. The drunken night, the lies, the fear, the heartbreak. It was a story no one would ever believe. But as he slid the ring onto my finger, his hand steady and sure, I knew that our story, with all its crazy, messy, beautiful detours, had finally led us home.